Men of Iron, Chapter 3. What Miles remembered of Falworth loomed great and grand and big, as things do in the memory of childhood. But even memory could not make Falworth the equal of Delvin Castle. When, as he and Deacon Bowman rode out of Delvin town, across the great rude stone bridge that spanned the river, he first saw, rising above the crowns of the trees, those huge hoary walls and the steep roofs and chimneys clustered together, like the roofs and chimneys of a town. The castle was built upon a plateau-like rise of ground, which was enclosed by the outer wall. It was surrounded on 3 sides by a loop-like bend of the river, and on the 4th was protected by a deep, broad, artificial moat, almost as wide as the stream from which it was fed. The road from the town wound for a little distance along by the edge of this moat, as Miles and the old bowman galloped by, with the answering echo of the horses' hoof-beats rattling back from the smooth stone face of the walls. The lad looked up, wondering at the height and strength of the great ancient fortress. In his air-castle building, Miles had pictured the Earl receiving him as the son of his one-time comrade-at-arms. Receiving him, perhaps, with somewhat of the rustic warmth that he knew at Crosbury Dale. But now, as he stared at those massive walls from below, and realized his own insignificance and the greatness of this Earl, he felt the first keen, helpless ache of homesickness shoot through his heart, and his heart yearned for Crosby Dale again. Then they thundered across the bridge that spanned the moat, and through the dark shadows of the great gaping gateway, and Deacon, bidding him stay for a moment, rode forward to speak to the gatekeeper. The gatekeeper gave the two in charge of one of the men-at-arms who were lounging upon a bench in the archway, who in turn gave them into the care of one of the house-servants in the other courtyard. So, having been passed from one to another, and having answered many questions, Miles finally found himself in the outer waiting-room, sitting beside Deacon upon a wooden bench that stood along the wall under the great arch of the glazed window. For a while the poor country lad sat stupidly bewildered. He was aware of people coming and going, he was aware of talk and laughter sounding around him, but he thought of nothing but his aching homesickness and the oppression of his utter littleness in the busy life of this great castle. Meantime, old Deacon Bowman was staring about him with huge interest, every now and then nudging his young master, calling his attention now to this and now to that, until at last the lad began to awaken somewhat from his despondency to the things around. Besides those servants and others who came and went, and a knot of 6 or 8 men-at-arms, with bills and pole-axes, who stood at the farther doorway talking together in low tones, now and then broken by a stifled laugh, was a group of 4 young squires, who lounged on a bench beside a doorway hidden by a curtain, and upon them Miles' eyes lit with sudden interest. 3 of the 4 were about his own age. 1 was a year or 2 older, and all 4 were dressed in the black and yellow uniform of the House of Beaumont. Miles plucked the bowman by the sleeve. "Are they squires, Deacon?" said he, nodding toward the door. "Eh?" said Deacon. "Aye, they're squires." "And will my station be with them?" asked the boy. "Oh, aye. If the Earl takes you to service, you will happily be taken as a squire." Miles stared at them, and then of a sudden was aware that the young men were talking of him. He knew it by the way they eyed him and spoke now and then in one another's ears. One of the 4, a gay young fellow, with long riding boots laced with green laces, said a few words, and others gave a laugh. And poor Miles, knowing how ungainly he must seem to them, felt the blood rush to his cheeks and shyly turned his head. Suddenly, as though stirred by an impulse, the same lad who had just created the laugh rose from the bench, and came directly across the room to where Miles and the bowman sat. "Give ye good day," said he. "What is your name, and whence come ye, if I make so bold to ask?" "My name is Miles Falworth," said Miles, "and I am come from Crosby Dale, bearing a letter to my lord." "Never did I hear of Crosby Dale," said the squire. But what seek ye here, if I may ask that much?" "I come seeking service," said Myles, "and would enter as an esquire such as ye be in my lord's household." Myles's new acquaintance grinned. "Ye'll make a droll squire to wait in a lord's household. Have ye ever been in such service?" "Nay," said Myles, "I have only been at school, and learned Latin and French and what not, but Deacon Bowman here has taught me use of arms." The young squire laughed outright. "By Our Lady, your talk tickles me, friend Myles. Think ye such matters will gain ye footing here? But stay, ye did say that ye had a letter to my lord. From whom is it?" "It is from my father," said Myles. "He is of noble blood, but fallen in estate. He is a kinsman of my lord, his one-time comrade in arms." "So," said the other. "Then perhaps your chance are not so ill at all." Then after a moment he added, "My name is Francis Gascoigne, and I will stand your friend in this matter. Get your letter ready, for my lord and his Grace of York are within, and come forth soon. The Archbishop is on his way to Dalworth, and my lord escorts him as far as Uppingham. I and those others are to go along. Do ye know my lord by sight?" "Nay," said Myles, "I know him not." "Then I will tell you when he comes. Listen," said he, as a confused clattering sounded in the outer courtyard. "Yonder are the horses now. They come presently. Better have your letter ready, friend Myles." The attendants, who passed through the anteroom, now came and went more hurriedly, and Myles knew that the Earl must be about to come forth. He had hardly time to untie his pouch, take out the letter, and tie the strings again, when the curtain at the doorway was thrust suddenly aside, and a tall, thin squire of about 20 came forth, said some words to the young men on the bench, and then withdrew again. Instantly the squires arose and took their station beside the doorway. A sudden hush fell upon all in the room, and the men-at-arms stood in a line against the wall, stiff and erect, as though all at once transformed to figures of iron. Once more the curtain was drawn back, and in the hush Myles heard voices in the other room. "My lord comes," whispered Giscon in his ear, and Myles felt his heart leap in answer. The next moment 2 noblemen came into the anteroom, followed by a crowd of gentlemen, squires, and pages. One of the 2 was a dignity of the church. The other Myles instantly singled out as the Earl of Mackworth.